Hi there, my name is Cathy Wicks, and I'm an Assistant Instructional Designer at the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning at Memorial. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use H5P to create interactive objects for your courses or web pages. So you may be wondering, what is H5P? Well, H5P stands for HTML5 package, but basically it's a web-based software plugin that allows you to create interactive objects to augment your course content. You can create objects such as interactive graphics, self-check, type questions, drag and drops, and so on. In looking at the h5p.org website, you'll see that there are plenty of examples and demonstrations um, available to look at. And while it is possible to sign up for a free account on this site, there are some limitations in doing that. So CITL has created a H5P Resources environment specifically for Memorial users. So why would you want to use H5P? Well, you might be interested in creating interactive content for your course. And with H5P, the learning curve is actually relatively short. The templates are easy to use, and there's plenty of examples and resources and demonstrations available on the h5p.org website to help you create your objects. And of course, in creating your own objects on CITL's H5P Resources environment, you have ownership and control over the objects you create. So now that you have a better idea of what H5P is and why you would want to use it in your course, I'm going to demonstrate how you would create an object. So there are many types of objects that I could demonstrate, but I think what you'll see is that regardless of the type of object, the interface is quite friendly and similar in terms of how it guides you through creating your objects. So let me head over to Brightspace. And this example here is one that was developed in-house for our pharmacy course, and it's called Image Hotspots. And the image here shows cranial nerves. It's a brain image of a brain with the cranial nerves all illustrated in different colors. And when you click the hotspot icons, it pops up more information about those particular nerves. So you might be able to imagine that this activity would be a nice alternative to having a static image with a list of definitions or bulleted text. So this would be one interactive way of displaying that information. So if we head over to the H5P Resources area that CITL has set up, you'll notice that you can see, I'm not logged in right now, and you'll notice that you can see all of the resources that have been created by other Memorial users on the H5P Resources homepage prior to logging in. And while you can view these objects, unless you log in, you won't be able to create your own objects or edit any of your objects. So if you haven't already done so, you can request access to the H5P Resources site through the CITL Support Center. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and log in here, pressing the login button in the upper right corner. Okay, once you log in, you will see a list of your recently accessed courses in the center of the screen, if you have any. And you'll also be able to see all the resource areas that you have access to create objects and edit objects under My Resources. And of course, you'll still be able to access all the resources that have been created by other Memorial users under the All Resources tab. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into My Resources area, CITL Cathy Wicks. Okay. And so once you come in here, you'll notice that there really isn't much in here, and before you can actually edit anything or create objects, you have to turn editing on. So that's this button right here in the upper right hand corner. Okay, so once you turn editing on, you'll notice that you've got some pencil icons and a few extra menu options here on the right hand side. And one thing that we do encourage you to do before you begin creating your objects is to think about how you might want to organize your resources. So maybe you want to organize them by topic or course name, or maybe even object type. Whichever method you choose is fine as long as it works for you. So I'm just going to click Add Topics, and I'm going to create just the one topic for now. And I'll click on this pencil icon, and I will just rename that to Demonstration for today, and hit Enter on your keyboard when done. Okay, so again, it doesn't matter, you can create multiple topics. It's totally up to you, whatever works for you. So right now we can click Add an Activity or Resource and select Interactive Content. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is enter a description. And of course you don't have to fill in a description, but you might find it useful to help you organize your objects. So the next thing you'll want to do is scroll down and find the object that you want to create. So the object that I'm going to create for this demonstration is called Image Hotspots. But you'll notice as you're scrolling down through the different types of options, there's a Details button on the right hand side. So if you click the Details button, you'll see that you'll have some examples of how that object can be used, and you'll also notice that you can have access to a content demo. And the content demo brings you to the h5p.org website, and that provides you with interactive examples of those types of objects, so you can get a better idea. If you're not sure what type of object you want to create, you can have a look through some of those examples and demonstrations. So that's a good resource to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to click on Image Hotspots. Okay, so the first thing I'll do now is I'm going to enter a title for my object, and I'm going to call this one maybe just Cranial Nerves for now is fine. This type of object requires that you add a background object. So for this one, I had that image of the brain with the nerves highlighted in the various colors. So I want to click Add. And I'll locate my image. So I'll go ahead and click Brain Stem. Open that up. Okay, so this is not an image that I created, so I'll want to credit the image owner. So I'm going to go ahead and click Edit Copyright. So I think this one may have been created by Patrick Lynch, and it was created, I believe, in the year 2006. It came from Wikimedia, so go ahead and put that in. I believe the license was an attribution 2.5, I believe. Okay, so I've got my copyright information in there, and that's really important, again, to credit the author. Alternative text is important for for anybody relying on screen reading technology or any other assistive devices. So the more descriptive you can make this alternative text for the image, the more value it would add. So I'm going to say that this is a diagram of cranial nerves. Illustrated with various colors and labeled. Okay, so as I said, as descriptive as you possibly can, because the more value added, the better. Okay, so for a hotspot icon, you can select the predefined icon, or you can upload your own image. For this one, I'm just gonna stick with the predefined icon for now, and I'll stick with the plus symbol, though there are other types you can pick from. With the hotspot color, it's best to go with a color that's in complete contrast to the rest of the background image, because it'll be easier to see that way. So I've got a lot of colors going on in this image, so but I think this dark purple here might be a good color to use, so I'll just stick with that. Okay, so the next thing you'll want to do is position your hotspot. So you can see here that this image, this thumbnail is quite tiny, and it's difficult to get that in the correct place. So you can click on the resize button here, and you can bring that in a little bit bigger. So I'm going to place this first hotspot up here on the olfactory 1 nerve. Okay. And the next option is cover entire background image. So this would, when the user clicks the hotspot, the pop-up would come up and cover the entire background image. So this is probably not really necessary for my purposes here today, because I just want to give a little bit of extra information, just a little bit of a definition for that nerve. But if you had, a pop-up where you wanted to show an extra image and a lot of text, and you were going to need that screen real estate, this would be a good setting to choose. Okay, so the header is optional, but I do want to go ahead and put that in, so I'm going to go with olfactory cranial nerve. Okay, and I'm just kind of doing a quick select here because I've already done this object before, so my my settings are remembering this text and stuff, but you'll want to type that in from fresh if you haven't done it before. Okay. Okay, pop-up content. So content items. So you can choose text, video, or an image. So for my purposes here today, I'm going to go with text, but I could, if I had a video, either a video that I created that I wanted to upload, or a video that was on a YouTube site, for example, I could go ahead and embed that video in the pop-up as well. Same thing with an image. Okay, so I can upload an image and embed that as well, but I'm just going to go with text for today. Okay, so I'm going to type that this cranial nerve is responsible for smell. Okay. All right. And so if I wanted to add another item, again, if you wanted to add a image or a video, you can go ahead and add that now. For this one, that's fine. But I do want to add another hotspot, so I'll go ahead and I'll click Add Hotspot. Okay, and so we do the same thing again. Okay, so you can zoom in on that, make that a little bit bigger. So next I want to do the Optic Nerve 2. Okay, so I'm just going to check cover entire background image here now so you can see the difference. Okay, so this one is going to be the Optic, which is the cranial nerve 2. Okay, all right, and again, just going to go ahead with text on this one, and the text is going to say that this nerve is responsible for sight. Okay. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for now. You'll notice down at the bottom here you have display action bar and frame, and there's also a copyright button. So I'm going to leave both of those checked. The action bar and frame, so when we want to embed our object, that action bar will contain that embed buttons where we need to get our codes. We want to leave that one checked. And of course the copyright button, we do want the copyright button to appear on this one because we have some copyright content in here. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is click Save and Display. Okay, and here it is. So you'll see that you've got two hotspots on this example. We've got one here and we've got another one here. And so you notice the difference between that, use the entire background image checkbox, or cover the entire background image rather. So that one just pops that up in a much larger size. So if you had a lot of content, you could use that setting. Okay, so at this point, if there's something that I wasn't happy about and I wanted to go back and move a hotspot around or maybe add another hotspot, you can click on this little cog icon up here in the right hand corner and you can select Edit Settings, and that'll bring you right back to that edit page where you can add your extra hotspots and whatnot. Okay, but for now I'm happy with this, and so I'm ready to actually embed this in my course. Okay, so I am going to scroll down to the bottom here and you'll see that there's an Embed Code button. Okay, so you want to click that Embed Code button, and so this will pop up the code that you'll need to embed this into your Brightspace page or another web page. Okay, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click in here, and you might need to double click you want to make sure you get all that text. If you're on a PC, you can also do a Control A and that'll select everything, or Command A if you're on a Mac. Okay, so once I have all the text selected, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy. And the way you would copy that, you can either right click and choose copy, or again you can do a Control C to copy if you're on a PC, or a Command C if you're on a Mac. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to head over to my Brightspace shell. Okay, so you'll see that I'm in the Brightspace shell here, and this is my page where I would like to embed that object. So in order to do that, I'm going to click the pencil icon here, Edit HTML. I'm going to just go down here and I'm going to insert that right below this content here. Okay, so you want to click the Insert Stuff button on the toolbar. It's this icon right here. Okay, and I want to select Enter Embed Code. Okay, so once that comes up, I can either right click and paste, or again, if you're on a PC, you can choose Control plus V, or if you're on a Mac, Command plus V, okay, to paste. So there's my embed code. Okay, so I hit next, and here's a little preview of my object here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert that. Okay, and so at this point now you want to click Save and Close. And now you can see the object embedded in your page. Okay, so let's just say you noticed an error at this point. Once you got it in your course, you notice that, I'd like to add some extra content, or I've misaligned a hotspot, or whatever the case may be. So you can actually jump back over to your H5P object. Okay, and at this point here you can go in and you can click your edit settings, which brings you back to your editing window. and you can make those changes. And once you make those changes will be automatically reflected on your Brightspace page. Okay, you will not have to embed that object again. So that's actually something that you should keep in mind if you are, if you're creating an object and then you want to kind of take that object and you want to modify it a little bit and put it in another course. Well, then you'll have to create a copy of that object, because you don't want to update the object if you actually want a different copy, because it will overwrite that. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. Once you embed it, those changes will reflect in every area that you embedded that object. Okay, so, and that's probably something that you should also consider if you're going to use somebody else's object that you don't really have control over. So, once you embed that in your course page, then the original author can go ahead and make changes, and that's going to be reflected in your course page. So again, if you don't want that to be the case, then you might want to consider making a copy of the object, and making those modifications yourself, so that then you have control over that object once you embed it into your course. Okay? Okay, so I think that's it. That's it for the basics of creating an object and embedding it into your Brightspace shell. A couple other things that I could mention. Back in your H5P Resources area, there was a couple of buttons there that I didn't really talk about. And one of those was copy, and another was paste and replace. So let's just say you did want to make a copy of your object, and you just kind of want to make a few little modifications to place it in another course or whatever. You can go ahead and you can click this copy button here. And so then when you go in and you create a new object, and you get to the step where you're selecting that object type in the editor, you can actually just press the paste and replace button at that point once you've got that object on your clipboard, and it will pop in that entire object, so you can go ahead and make your modifications and press save. Okay, and another thing that I should mention as well, let me just press the save and display button here so that you can see that action bar again on the bottom of your screen. Okay, if you scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see that there's also a reuse button. So you can actually download this file as well as a H5P file. And so if someone else has created an object in the H5P resources area and you would like to use that object, then perhaps modify it yourself, you can download that file, okay? And you can upload it into your course site, or into your H5P resources site. Okay, so but now keep in mind, if you are going to do that, then you're going to want to credit the author, because you weren't the original author for that content. Okay, so you can check back to our website, CITL Technology Resources website, and you'll see additional information regarding reuse and copying content and that kind of thing. Okay, all right, thanks so much everyone. Have fun creating your H5P objects.